Hey guys, Barry here, and welcome to your gaming station, NintendoImpactGaming. And today we have a special guest on the podcast. This is Thomas Hopper from TACS Games. Hello Thomas, how are you?
Hi Barry, I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Now, we do ask the big questions here on the podcast, and many fans have been asking me this question. How are you so damn good looking?
Well, I have a daily regime. Every day I make incredible video games.
I
It
see.
keeps you young, keeps you youthful.
It keeps me stressful as well, that's all I can say about it. Yeah, so for people who don't know who you are, tell everyone who you are and talk to us about TACS Games as well.
Okay, well, I am behind Tax Games. It's just me really. I have been making games for about 4 years now, and I mean, there's not a whole lot to say.
Yeah, so tell me about creating your first game. What was that like, the whole experience?
Well, did you want to know about the very first game I made, which was a very long time ago, or my first like commercial release?
Yeah, your first commercial release with TACS Games.
Okay, under the Tax Games name, I think that would probably be all the way back on PlayStation Mobile, and it would either have been Radiant Flux. I think it was. I think the first game that I released under the Tax Games brand was a 2D shooter on the Vita called Radiant Flux, which is actually significant because there is a sequel to Radiant Flux coming very soon.
Is that a spoiler?
Maybe, maybe if you're still enjoying playing the video games on your Wii U, then maybe there'll be a Radiant and Fluxical game coming your way in the next month or so.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I've been making games for a really long time though. But before I started Tax Games 4 years ago, it was mainly for my own amusement. The very first game that I ever made was an incredibly simple maze. The most notable feature of which is that there's actually only one way through the maze. God, this must have been, wow, 20 years ago. It was barely a game at all. You had a little character on the screen and you pushed the direction you wanted to go, but you could only at any point in time you could only go in one of two directions: forwards towards the end of the maze, or back the way you'd come. There were no branching paths.
Yeah.
But my first commercial release under the Tax Games name, Radiant Flux, was a very, very simple, retro-styled, pixel art type shooter that was unnecessarily difficult and had a very annoying one-track looping soundtrack, which everyone asked me to give them a way to switch off.
All
But that
right.
was a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me, where did the idea come from for creating Octocopter on Wii U?
Well, that's actually quite simple. About 3 or 4 months ago, I decided that I was going to get back into playing GameCube games. It's been a really long time since I've been able to play a GameCube game. When I got my Wii U, got rid of my Wii, thinking not going to need that again. And
How wrong you were.
yeah, very very wrong. Every few months after getting rid of it, I saw something cool on my shelf, one of my GameCube games. I thought, oh, I'd like to give that a go, and had no way of playing it. So I decided that I was going to get myself a new GameCube, which turns out it's not as simple as it used to be. There are fewer of them floating around, and they're much more expensive. So over the course of a couple of months, I started collecting bits and pieces of a power cable here and a absolutely filthy console there, and a third-party controller from this place and memory cards from that place. Scrubbed it all up, put it together, and obviously GameCube is fantastic. It's one of my favorite consoles. So I started looking around for games that I hadn't played. And And there's actually only something like 200 games released for the GameCube. So there weren't that many that I'd completely never heard of. So I went further and I started looking for games that were never released in Europe on the GameCube. Games that I would clearly have not have heard of when I was a kid and looking for GameCube games. And one of the ones that I found that came highly recommended was a Japanese-only release called Kururin Squash. And people said it was a puzzle game to get hold of, and you didn't need to be able to speak Japanese to play it. So I imported this game and played it, and it was fantastic. And then, obviously, I go look the game up and find out that this game has had a release in Europe, but not on the GameCube. It was originally a Game Boy Advance game called Kururin. Do you know the game?
I think I heard the name before, but I've never... See, I haven't played as many Game Boy Advance games as I would like to play, unfortunately.
Well, it's... Back when I played on the GBA, I didn't hear of this particular title, and maybe it was because it's a sort of abstract puzzle game, which wouldn't have been my thing back then. So the first time I ever came across this Kururin was in the form of Kururin Squash on the Japanese GameCube. And I was so taken with the concept that I thought, well, here's a game that was never released outside of Japan, with some really interesting gameplay. And I thought, well, I wonder if I can make something inspired by this that uses similar mechanics. And so the idea in Kururin Squash is you are a stick-shaped object that rotates, and you have to move it around a maze. And I thought, what could I do that has a similar style of mechanic, but with a new concept and a new setting?
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about what kind of things move that are long and thin. I'm like vehicles, what kind of vehicles exist
Yeah.
that are long and thin? Well, actually, I don't know. In the last year or so, there has been an indie game where you play as a limousine that spins around for some unspecified reason. I forget what it's called. So limousines were out. And then it dawned on me. Vehicles that move in various directions that are long, thin, submarine. And then I thought, well, okay, why is the submarine not just going forwards and backwards or round in circles like submarines normally do? And so I thought, well, of course, if you're at the bottom of the ocean and you're in a submarine, what always happens? Well, you get attacked by a giant squid or an octopus.
Yeah.
One of the two. And so I thought I could put that in the middle. It would indicate the point of rotation, and it would give it a reason to spin round. So that's the story, really. I played this game. I thought it was fantastic and was inspired to make something in the style of. And octopus and submarine fit the bill. So I ran with it.
Yeah.
And everything else just came naturally.
Yeah, I'd love to ask your opinion of my gameplay so far that you've seen on the channel.
Yeah, I've seen the first two. Is that all that's been produced so far?
Yeah, number 3 will be out tomorrow for us. See, this will be live on Thursday, the day of the release of the game.
Right.
So,
Well, I've seen the first two. The first world, I saw that you were still learning the ropes, so to speak.
yeah,
But I was very impressed when I saw you tackling World 2, because I've seen, obviously, lots of people play the game. When I'm doing my testing, I try and get as many people in to play the game as possible.
yeah,
And I have a couple of very dedicated gameplay testers who help me out when I'm working on stuff. And they both said that when the difficulty ramped up in World 2, that they really struggled. So seeing you complete levels in World 2 just off the bat, without even hitting the sides,
yeah.
was very impressive.
Thank you. I found that the levels in World 4 were a bit easier than number 3.
Perhaps you were just getting better. Perhaps by the
Maybe,
end of the
but
game, that you were an octopus master.
yeah. See, I found you'll see in the third one. It's the second last one. It's an absolute bitch to play. It's where the spoiler here is where the stones are. Well, is it a spoiler? I don't know. It's with the rocks, spinning around like the small ones in a circle,
Yeah.
and that just cracked me up.
Yep. Oh, well, those guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, they caused me some trouble for not to rush. As in, the button that makes you go a bit faster.
yeah,
Don't press it. Like, it seems like you would want to go as fast as you can through that hole, but it just means that you don't have as much control over the rotation. So aim for the bottom right, and as the thing is rotating, your natural rotation at regular speed will just take you through. And
yeah,
as soon as I stop trying to rush through, I stop crashing into them. But yeah, I know what you mean. Those really long levels are a bit taxing.
yeah. Now, what makes each of your games so different that you've created for TACS games?
Well, I'd like to think that they are different. Um, so far, on the Wii U at least, I've had two games out, but only in America. These were some of my early TACS games. Um, I just like working on different things. Each of them has a very distinct theme and a distinct style. I just, if I spend too much time working on one thing, I get bored with it.
Yeah, yeah,
So, every time I start a new game, I'm looking to do something different. So my last game was a very hyper-real sort of adventure game with all very realistic graphics and as realistic as I could do them, and a very physical interface. And then Octocopter is a bit cartoony, a bit colourful and silly. And the one that's coming out next is a sort of a mashup of arched graphics and super retro pixel art that really don't go well together.
Would that be as a factotum?
Factotum was the last game that I released. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
Factotum 90, in fact.
yeah. And is Factotum the on the Wii U? Is that the prequel to the 90 game on Xbox One?
Sort of. They actually tell the same story. When I released Factotum on Wii U, it was like my first really big game, and it wasn't so super successful. But it also had a really unusual style with the physical interface and the sort of green screen, like 80s CRT look. I think that put a lot of people off. So I spent some time last year upgrading it into this sort of hyperreal, physically based shading. Everything's super shiny, and then I put like 90 style post processing CRT stuff on it, so it looks like you're watching a VHS.
Yeah.
Which I think worked a bit better. People seem to like that a bit more.
Yeah, looking at a quadcopter, it's very interesting. I've never played something like this before. Modern day anyway, like a little helicopter, and you're going around flying stuff, being a pilot. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed making that game. It wasn't the most complicated project in the world, but at the time I was interested in these little quadcopters that were getting more readily available, and I set out to make like a sim that controlled as accurately as possible to these little things that you can buy these days, and then built like assault courses and strange challenges that you can do using them, which you wouldn't be able to do with a real one. But I think I made a few mistakes with that game. The first being that I think the controls were a little too accurate, which made it really very difficult to control. And there were people who picked the game up, couldn't control the machine, and assumed the game was defective somehow. I think they were probably half right. If the sticks on the Wii U game had been about 2 inches longer, I think it would have been easier to control. What I'd done was I'd mapped the control sticks from a quadcopter onto the gamepad without taking into account the length of the sticks.
Yeah.
And over the course of the development time, I got really, really good at controlling the thing and built up all the muscles in my thumbs. And then most gamers don't actually use analog sticks like that. They use them as sort of directional controllers, and their instinct is to push the controller all the way forwards and then sort of spin it in a circle left and right to get like steering a car or moving a character. There are very few people who play an FPS and walk forward slowly. And in fact, the muscles that you need in your wrist and thumb to be able to do that take a lot of development. And so what you end up with is a game that's actually quite difficult to play. There are some people who on Miiverse had said that they really appreciated how accurate it was, and they liked the realism and the challenge of mastering the control of the quadcopter. But there are also people who are like, this is too difficult to be enjoyable, and I respect that.
Yeah.
So those first two Wii U games that I released only in American territories weren't super successful, and that's one of the reasons why that they made their way to Europe.
Yeah. So, what games did you play growing up anyway?
Oh, so many. I think
So little time.
the first game that I played that really sparked my imagination, that made me think that games could be something really special, was probably Resident Evil 2. Like, I'd played games before then on PC and so on, and always enjoyed them, but it wasn't until I played Resident Evil 2 that I really saw the potential of games to be like a medium that gives experiences unlike any others. I still really love Resident Evil.
Yeah. And do you own Revelations on Wii U or 3DS?
Now I have to get this right. I have Revelations. Yeah, of course. I have it. I got it when it came out on the 3DS.
Yeah, same as.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. Played through the entire thing. I thought the design of the thing was very, very interesting. They clearly made some concessions around sort of the mission structure, which was a new thing. Like, the older Resident Evil games just were one long, continuous, unyielding mission, whereas they'd broken this up into chunks. And I think that was definitely a concession to the handheld nature of the thing. You don't want to be playing for 8 hours straight on your handheld. It's going to be something you're going to play for 20 minutes, half an hour when you're traveling or whatever. But I think that gave them the ability to switch locations more readily. Like, in Resident Evil 1, 2, or 3, you have one character and you follow them all the way through to the end of the story, and then you switch to another character and you see a different perspective. Whereas when you have a mission structure, it lets you chop the game up into chunks, and then when a chunk ends, you can just say, all right, now we're over here with these characters, or elsewhere. Here you are on the side of a mountain, or they even they moved you backwards and forwards in time as well, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, it's a nice variety, I think, in Revelations.
Yeah, I agree.
Number 2, I have on PS4 and Vita. I actually bought the Vita version on PlayAsia, the physical copy. Worth buying, I think, anyway.
Cool.
But I don't think the game is as good as number 1, Revelations 1.
I really like the characterization. I like the story. It definitely seemed to have been written by people who wanted to tell a more sort of normal story, less schlocky, but they clearly also had great respect for the origins. Revelations 2 had just like loads and loads of in-jokes,
Yeah.
Like every little bit. Like, they had Jill sandwiches, and they had lots of very,
I love
very
that joke. Yeah.
creative swearing, and there's even a bit right at the end, which I'm absolutely certain is a reference to that bit in Resident Evil 1 where Jill and Barry together, and like they're making gestures at each other and maybe like handing things to each other. It's not entirely obvious because the graphics are incredibly simple, but he's like, here, take this, and Jill says, what about you? And he's like, don't worry, I've got this. And he does that line almost exactly at the very end of the game. Pulls up this enormous gun.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Yeah, I love that. I really liked it. I thought the writing was good.
Yeah. It's something that it's hard to find, I guess, these days. I don't know, like if you're creating a story, a really compelling story for a game, it's either hit or miss, to be honest. Like if you look at something like Uncharted and On Last of Us, like you see Naughty Dog, I think for me anyway, they are the masters of storytelling at the moment.
I think it can, like, when you're writing a narrative, you're not always going to be appealing to everybody.
Yeah,
I'm not the biggest fan of Naughty Dog's kind of style of storytelling. Um, I certainly think that The Last of Us was better than the Uncharted games, but
I agree.
I mean, Uncharted is more about quirky characters, one-liners, and big environments.
Yeah, yeah.
What I like. I've played Uncharted 3 and watched somebody play most of Uncharted 2. But like, what's the story there? I mean, I couldn't tell you. Guy goes to place for some reason, shoots some people. I
Yeah.
also played the one on the Vita, and I believe the story was the same. He goes to a place for some reason, and people are shot, and then he climbs on a thing, and then maybe he almost gets some treasure near the end, and then he doesn't get any treasure at the end. There you go. That's the story of all the Uncharteds. I
Yeah,
think he might have been a small child at one point.
Golden Abyss is actually the prequel to Uncharted 1.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, the one on the Vita, it's not bad. I haven't completed it fully. I've completed all the rest of them, but I haven't completed the Vita version.
I hold the sacrilegious belief that Golden Abyss was better than Uncharted 3. And by the end of it, I was just wishing it would be over.
That bad, is it?
Well, yeah, for me.
Yeah. Have you played Uncharted 4?
No, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan, and clearly it looks very shiny. But right before it came out, they did the Uncharted collection, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, not something that I'm going to buy into, but my good friend of mine bought it and then did it on share play with me. So I was watching him play it and reliving the excitement of people who are able to throw grenades at you from 400-500 meters away and have them land at your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really my cup of tea, I don't think.
Okay, so what would you call the greatest game of all time and why?
Well, that's a very difficult question to answer.
Gotta ask the hard questions?
You sure have. I know it's your job. Well, I'm a big fan of Resident Evil, obviously.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm playing EDF 4.1 Shadow of New Despair, and I'm a huge fan of EDF. It's. Do you know the game?
I'm just looking up here. I'm not sure if I Shadow of New Despair. Hold on, EDF, Earth Defense Force.
That's the one.
Let's see, looks mental.
It's pretty crazy. It's also like not technically very competent, and the dialogue it might as well have been Google translated. A lot of it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And the setting is crazy, and the weapons are ludicrous, and all of this stuff. But put together, it's just a giant, nonsensical bundle of fun.
It kind of reminds me of Transformers a little bit. I don't know, the images here on Steam, just like the kind of like the robots and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, it has a very like cartoony
Yeah.
style. The story is that giant insects come out of the ground and start attacking people. But of course, we have the EDF, the Earth Defense Force, to go and shoot the giant insects. And then more giant insects come, and then new kinds of giant insects. And people say the word giant insect over and over and over again. I'm fairly sure there must be like a really concise, cool word in Japanese that means giant insect, because they don't call them anything else for the entire game. Even when the spiders turn up, which aren't even insects, they're just another kind of giant insect. Shoot the giant insects. Run away from the giant insects. A new kind of giant insect has appeared. It's hilarious and a lot of fun, especially in multiplayer. And it has online and local multiplayer. So I play with my friends on the lines, and I play with my with my wife here. We just spend hours and hours shooting ants.
Sounds
It's
ridiculous.
it's a hell of a lot of fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's consuming my life. Every now and then I'll buy a new one and it'll consume my life for a bit longer.
yeah.
It's just simple, joyous fun. How
So,
about you? What's your favorite game of all time?
up the people know, but the people, but it would be Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 for
Oh,
me.
they're incredible things, aren't they?
It's like that just rekindled Mario magic for me anyway. Just a fantastic game.
Yeah, those two games are about as close to platforming perfection as you can get.
Yeah, it's for me like it was. It's hard to recreate something like that. I think Galaxy 1 and 2. Like, it's like something that only Nintendo could do, and that's not like an insult to any other developer, but it's just the way Nintendo do things.
It's it's beautifully crafted. It runs incredibly well. It looks amazing, and it has their tried and tested technique of introducing mechanics and using them in sets of threes that just teaches you a thing, makes sure that you know how to use it, and then twists the formula on you, and then throws it away. Here's another thing. Here's some platforms that are upside down. Here's some bees that you can climb on. Here's a bouncy spring or a ice skating Mario. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty perfect. So much so that I don't think any of the Mario games on the Wii U really stood up to it. Like, I loved 3D World.
yeah,
Uh,
that's great.
it's
I like the game.
fantastic, but it just isn't in the same class as Galaxy or Galaxy 2.
Yeah,
Something about it, and I'm not sure what it is. Maybe they had more time to work on Galaxy.
well, I think Galaxy will be like a bigger project compared to 3D World, and like the pun isn't intended, because the Galaxy, it's universe, it's all big. But
Mm.
I personally would love to see a HD remaster of the two games, but I doubt that will happen though.
It's not really Nintendo style, is it? They seem very happy to re-release things as they were, rather than saying here's the same thing but slightly shinier. They
True,
seem
but
very
like,
confident in their product. They say this was good when it came out. You can still play it.
yeah,
Like they've done with the Wii downloads on the Wii U and well, basically the Virtual Console since it was launched, and I really respect that.
yeah.
Not
No,
that I wouldn't like an HD
yeah.
version of.
But look, I have this HDMI, it's Wii to HDMI device for my Wii system, and it makes everything bump up again, and everything looks absolutely stunning. And Galaxy on it is just amazing to play on my TV.
Sounds really nice.
Yeah, it is. It's like holy crap. If you compare that game to 3D World on Wii U, it's like 3D. It's nearly visually it's as good as it is on Wii U. Like that's how
Cool.
crazy the Wii system. As in, technically, the Wii wasn't the most powerful system, but if you look at Galaxy, it was honestly one of the best looking games of that generation.
It was. It was. I mean, getting that kind of power out of the Wii itself is just, yeah, incredible. They did an amazing job. I mean, they're still doing it. If you look at Mario Kart on Wii U, it's another incredibly beautiful game,
Oh, it's stunning.
and nothing else on the system looks like it.
Yeah,
I have so much respect for Nintendo and the work that they do. I mean, they're always going to be intimately familiar with their own hardware, but they do an incredibly good job.
I think it's only
And of course,
Nintendo who know best what their hardware is, and only they'll have their little shine stamp to it.
yeah. Of course, we saw a glimpse of a new Mario game on the NX trailer.
Yeah.
What do you think that's going to be? Is it a new Galaxy or a new 3D world? Or
Well, I hope. I think that the time is now. Nintendo will hopefully make some sort of open world 3D game, like a platform as a sandbox game, but set in the Mushroom Kingdom. And
right?
and if you notice when the girl takes over the Switch system over to the other, the top of the rooftop, the two girls are playing with two controllers. So I'm wondering, two player in there playing as Luigi and Mario at the same time. Hell yeah.
So something a little bit more like Sunshine.
I guess it's something like in the lines of multiplayer from 64 DS
Right.
and I guess maybe
So
Sunshine and Galaxy kind of mixed together.
yeah, so like because Sunshine had like a world hub, but so did Galaxy.
Yeah,
But Sunshine's hub had more stuff to do in it, and there was platforming to be done and missions take that took place there.
yeah, yeah,
So maybe if they folded that out into a sort of hub world and then pipes that take you off to special places.
yeah.
They certainly have had a lot of practice recently getting good quality open worlds running on their hardware. What with Breath of the
Xenoblade. Yeah,
Xenoblade and Breath of the Wild, yeah,
yeah,
could be interesting.
yeah. So, what was it like working with Nintendo anyway? Releasing their games. Were they easy to work with?
They've always done right by me. I love working with Nintendo. They getting involved with them, getting to recognize me and my company as people that should be taken seriously as game developers was very easy to do, and it's always a pleasure to work with them.
So, who or what inspired you to make video games?
Wow, that's it's a difficult question. Um, well, I've always loved games of all kinds, and from way back when I got my first console ever, my Super Nintendo,
Great system.
I've fantastic. I've always loved playing them, and this day I have flashbacks to Super Star Wars and the Sandcrawler from my youth. I don't know. I guess I always wanted to tell stories and make experiences, and games are kind of unique in that you can do that on your own. It's difficult to many other visual mediums, like film, for example.
Yeah,
It's difficult to do that, you know, nestled in a bedroom or in an office on your own. You need to go out. You need to work with people. You need to find reliable people to work with, and who knows? Maybe in a different dimension, I'm a filmmaker or or an author or something more respectable.
yeah. So, talk to us about creating music for video games. I know, like, I don't know, the music for Octocopter stood out anyway for me. Anyways, yeah, and then I realized you can switch the music by pressing select.
Yeah, it was originally just to disable the music. It's something that I try and do in some of my games because people have asked in the past. People like to listen to their own music, or sometimes people like a game but they don't like the music, and so I try and give the option to have the music switched off. But originally the game worked where on level one you heard music track one, and when you died it started again. Uh, During my playtesting, one of the guys said to me, "I love the game, but like the same track over and over and over again is a little bit annoying." So I introduced this thing where if you died, it would push the track on again. So you got track two, and then track three, and track four, and so on, until you finish the level. And it just so happened that if you switch the music off by pressing select, and then you switch it back on again, you'll get a different track. So it's just a sort of a feature that came by the side.
Yeah. So, have you any sort of relationship with any other game developers?
Um, yeah, I hang out on the internet with a bunch of very respectable independent developers, and there's some less respectable ones that I'm friends with on Twitter. Yeah, they're all lovely people, all in their own way struggling to do the same thing, which is make and finish and release a game,
Yeah.
which seems to be the primary challenge. I mean, some people are happy just the making, but for me, if the game's not released, it may as well not exist. So that's my thing, is I finish things.
So let's talk a bit more about the Nintendo Switch. What was your initial reaction to the trailer?
Interested. I like the idea. Um, People have been talking about that concept of a hybrid portable and home console for a while, and there were always some like logistical questions about the concept that I never really understood, and the questions haven't been answered yet. But I think the machine itself looks really slick. I like the idea of the detachable controllers, and I hope that they really go to town with that, and you can get custom controllers for different games. You know, the way that you had sort of add-on controllers for the DS that would go into the GBA slot. I think that could be really interesting. I'm definitely going to pick one up, and I'm going to be hassling Nintendo about getting me some dev hardware because I really want to see what the thing can do. It looks like it's a real powerhouse.
Yeah.
That's going to be fascinating. I'm working on some game ideas right now, which are a little bit out of the power range of the Wii U, and so I think that they would find a home on the NX.
Yeah.
On the NX, wait, the Switch.
Switch.
It'll take a while.
Yeah, it's all the same. Yeah, so have you any future plans of making a physical copy for Octocopter or any other Wii U game that you have?
Well, I'd love to do that. That would be great. I've always wanted to take my games into the physical, and it's always something I consider. But for that to happen, for it to be worthwhile, I think a game would have to be successful on its own. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
I could tomorrow go and master a new version of the game for discs and say to Nintendo, hey, please produce me a bunch of discs. And I give them a very large sum of money, and then they send me a big box full of Wii U games, and they go in my garage, and then I'm broke.
Yeah.
But, you know, if Octocopter is a success and people really like it, then there might be, you know, in the future, a discussion to be had about like a collector's edition or something like that.
Yeah. Now, could we see Octocopter on the Nintendo Switch? Or even on a new 3DS?
Both of those are definitely possible. I don't know about the new 3DS. I love the idea that they've opened up development of the 3DS to indie devs more readily with the new 3DS, and I do have one, and I think it's really great. But you know, the market size is much smaller. There's an awful lot of DSs and 2DSs and out there, 3DSs and 2DSs.
Yeah.
But the new Nintendo 3DSs, there's just not as many of them. So the market is smaller, and with the Switch coming out next year, the opportunity for growing that market and making sales there is smaller. So really, as much as I'd like to release my games on everything that's possible, I doubt that's going to happen. As far as bringing the game to the Switch, then I will look to bring a sequel out. All new puzzles, new squids, new giant snails, new fish-based bosses, new kinds of sand.
Yeah.
All in lovely high resolution on the Switch. I think that would make more sense.
Yeah. Now tell me this. Is Octocopter, is it any sort of connection, a prequel to Octodad?
I think I'm not sure that I would be in any position to answer that question.
Or Splatoon even, you know?
Probably not Splatoon. I think we could probably argue Octodad.
Yeah.
The only problem is that the octopus or the squid, whichever it is, I'm not sure, on top of that submarine is very large.
Yeah, I can see that all right.
It's got to be at least the size of a small building, and Octodad is the size of a small man.
Yeah.
So unless he's been on a diet, I don't think they're the same squid, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, yeah, I see you sent me a tweet anyway earlier on of the little figure you have, or amiibo, as I'm calling it.
That's the dream. I'd love to make an Octocopter amiibo, but yeah, this guy is. It's a 3D print of the actual model used in the game. The only difference is this. I had to simplify some of the stuff on the top there of the submarine because it wouldn't print. It was too fine a detail. But other than that, other than a little tweak to the spout on top of the submarine, it's an exact replica of the octopus and submarine in Octocopter. I'm very pleased with it. I think I'm going to hang them on my Christmas tree.
Have you any plans to sell one to
Well,
people like myself?
I'm not sure that it would be any great demand, but if the game's a huge success and people are crying out for Christmas tree decoration merchandise, then I can probably sort you out. But they are made to order by a 3D printing company that I use, so I'm sure that we can sort something out.
Maybe if I do, I could buy a couple, and I can maybe do like a giveaway on one of them as well. That'd be pretty cool.
We could definitely arrange that.
Yeah. So, as people do know, Octocopter is out today for people watching or listening, whatever. So tell us the price anyway of the game.
Uh, I'm I'm pretty sure. I can double check. Let me double check because I wouldn't want to get it wrong.
Yeah. I know for euro anyway, definitely it is $2.99 for euro, and US dollars it is the exact same price.
So it's €2.99. Uh, wow, there's a lot of European regions. What's that region? Norway. 24 krona, maybe?
That's Denmark as well. Krona would be Denmark.
I don't even know what that currency is. 12 something in Poland.
All right.
Let me just find pounds. It's 2.69, £2.69 in the United Kingdom.
Yeah. And is the game out in Australia as well, New Zealand area?
Yes, $3.99 in Australia and $5 in New Zealand.
Okay.
And it's all out at the same time. All of those lovely regions, and also in the American regions, Thursday, today.
Yeah, it's quite good. I like that because you see games, that are released on different regions, but at different times of the year as well. Like it could be out in America 6 months before.
Yeah, it's understandable. It's a little.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an undertaking to get a game out just on its own. I've tried really hard to make sure that my 2 releases at the end of this year are all coming out on the same date, and because the approval process for NOA and NOE are separate, you have a choice. Then do you delay one and then try and fix the issue on both, or do you push one out and push an update later? It's complicated. There's also the decision of is it better to have a staggered release so that you can focus your attention on one region at a time, or maybe you get 2 rounds of people going crazy about it on the internet. I did have at one point a version approved for release a week ago, but I wanted to make sure that everything came out at the same time and everything was perfect. So when an issue was found, I pushed everything back. Because I think people appreciate global releases. No one likes to be left out.
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Yeah. Can I ask before we head off? There's a game called 3 Souls on Wii U. Did you ever play it?
Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah, I know for today anyway, there's a demo out today on the Wii U. You can try it out for free. But I say you'd like it. I say it'd be something your style anyway.
I'll check it out.
It's like a puzzle platformer kind of game. It's pretty good.
Cool. I like puzzle platformers.
Yeah. All right, Tom. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, for anyone who is interested in checking you out on social media, where can we find you?
I'm at Thos_Thom on Twitter, and that's probably the best place to get me. I'm also on the YouTubes. You can look for my trailer. I'm the one that's not Nintendo UK. the one that has a squid on it that's not Nintendo. That's me.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Vine, and Twitch. And for more Nintendo and game podcasts, keep it right here. Thanks for watching, And as always guys, stay fresh.